Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. Today, we're going to be talking about humongous news yesterday. Basically, I guess, about the time when I got off with you guys yesterday. Um, the jury announced that they had a verdict and they came to the conclusion that Donald Trump was guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records, which is pretty screwy. And we're gonna go through some of the legal nonsense of it today. There's a really good article that actually a CNN analyst put out in an article that's going around, that's being shared. It was originally shared uh to Cafe, but that site, but Intelligencer New York um you know shared it and stuff. But it's a good article that explains a lot of this nonsense and how unprecedented this all is. It's strange. So the question is, what's going to happen after all this? I'm not surprised. A lot of people are surprised, just because I guess how crazy it is. I'm not surprised in the least bit. My parents are like, "What do you think is going to happen?" I'm like, "I think they're going to convict him." I'm like, "I think they're going to convict him," and I thought it always looked pretty bleak for him because it was in Manhattan. And that's not fair. It's not right. But and some people are like, no, the jury can hear things and they can make their own decision. Yeah, absolutely, it can happen. But you have the whole system is pretty much set up against him here. You have, Bragg, who was campaign on, getting Trump, and that I'm the one who tried Trump and I could do it. So the judge is very biased, extraordinarily biased. He should have recused himself. And it's just wild that it even got to this point. So, no, I'm not surprised. I don't know what's going to happen next. I know that we're supposed to discuss what's happening next. He could be sentenced to jail, he could just be sentenced to house arrest. I don't know. Uh, it depends how far this judge wants to go, and I guess how famous he wants to be. I don't know. Um, I don't believe this stuff will survive appeals. I don't know if it may survive the next appeal. It won't survive like going to like the Supreme Court or something like that, which the Democrats have been laying the groundwork and saying every time the court does something that they don't like, it's a rogue court. Joe Biden will call it a rogue court and all that kind of different stuff. So if it gets to that point where the Supreme Court needs to hear the case and overturn it or something, which should definitely come in Trump's favor, they'll say, "Oh, but Sam Alito flew an appeal to heaven flag. It has a pine tree." So which people, if you don't know what that's about, they're because he flew that flag on a boat and people flew that flag on January 6th. This very old flag that like George Washington, I believe, had commissioned and stuff. It's a very old flag, which people have been using it right and left. It's been flying on different government properties and so on, which now they're taking down because now they look bad. Um, they're trying to make him out some radical, and of course have been coming for Clarence Thomas for a while, and they want them to recuse themselves. Alito actually put out a statement the other day, said he's not recusing himself from this kind of stuff. And it's just been one attack after another. So I've been saying for a long time and making the case that Joe Biden is a threat to democracy, and Donald Trump, you can be upset about January 6th and how his behavior is like after the election and so on. What's he going to do? We already lived through Trump presidency, so we know what he's going to do. And I liked him better than I like the guy in the office right now, right? Um, but even if you consider the mob that happened and the riot that happened on January 6th, my question to people is, are you more concerned about a mob that can be put down, hunted down and arrested? A lot of people, these people got really harsh penalties. Or are you more concerned about the cabal who doesn't really answer to anyone, that has all these levers of power working together to thwart your liberties? What are you more concerned with? Are you more concerned with Donald Trump coming and punching you in the face? Everybody sees it. He's probably not going to get away with it. Or are you more concerned with Joe Biden coming behind you and severing your spine? What are you more concerned about? And then everybody being like, "Oh, I didn't see what happened." Oh, you must have slipped and fell. It was a greedy corporations or something. They, it's not back on Trump. You know, so it's messed up. I see people, a lot of people who didn't like Trump saying, they're going to vote for him now, but I still see people who aren't fond of Trump saying this all really looks bad, but maybe they're still not going to vote for him. The Republican enthusiasm, I think it will jump and encourage people to vote for him who are probably not thinking about it, or have probably decided to not to do that, because now they feel, and I've seen that, because they're voting against what's happening overall. We talked about Dennis Quaid, him going on Piers Morgan's show and saying, "Yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm concerned about how our justice system is being weaponized." And I'm sure he's not the only person who feels like that. I'm sure he's not. So how much of a difference is it going to make? And are the independents going to be turned off by people continuously saying felon, felon, felon? The Democrats are so in love with that word. They're going to be using it nonstop. And someone the other day said to me, "He'll always be President Felon." And I'm like, it could be overturned. What are you talking about? He won't always be President Felon. But the craziest thing, though, is what Hillary Clinton supporters tend to think this is, or some Democrats seem to think what this case is. So I've come across a lot of crazy tweets in the past, not quite 24 hours, but we'll talk about it. But anyway, long intro. Let me encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. I am currently working on an article, and I'm going to try to have it up tonight, about how, I guess it's a topic we've talked about a lot, about how Joe Biden is the actual threat to democracy rather than Donald Trump. And there's just many examples. I'm going to try to not make it a book or whatever. But there's still some things to add, and some things I guess I'm going to have to condense. There's a big argument to be made. So I'll have that article up, and then I'm going to do a special cut video probably sometime next week about this topic. But people need to know and understand that's their rhetoric, that Donald Trump is so awful, while ignoring all of the norms that they're breaking. People are saying no one's above the law. It kind of seems like Joe Biden's a little above the law, and he thought his son was going to be above the law until the judge was like, "This sweetheart deal is crazy. I can't sign off on this." And there are some whistleblowers and other people who are trying to keep them in check. But you have so many people in the government, you have social media companies, you have, well, no longer X, thanks to Elon Musk. You have the media, who were so nonstop. We got to fact check Trump, threat to democracy, so on. But when it comes to Biden, they're kind of like, they don't take it as seriously. When he lies, oh my gosh, he lies way more than Trump, I would say. I think way more than an average politician. I think Biden's lies are up there, and he'll lie about crazy stuff that he's already been caught lying about. And I don't, maybe some people could say it's because he's losing his mind, but he's been telling the same lies for a long time. So I don't think we can blame everything on him being senile. But anyway, I'll have that article up. I do encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com And if you can support, please consider supporting the website. It does cost a stream and run my website, all that stuff. So you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. If you guys would like to give on Facebook, you can send stars. Want to do it on YouTube, you guys can do super chats. And you guys can check out different merch on the store. I plan to have some more stuff up tomorrow on the store. I'll probably send an email or something. So, um, check that out. I have some ideas for a particular month that's unfortunately starting tomorrow. Positive thing about next month though, well, I said I'm going to consider it to be Life Month because that's when Roe v. Wade was overturned, and it is my literal life month though. My birthday's on the 10th, and Roe v. Wade's anniversary is 2 weeks after that, which is happens to be my youngest sister's birthday. Our church is doing a drive for Pregnancy Crisis Center, so that'll be great. So there'll be lots of content related to that topic that I'll be trying to put out as well. So I encourage you guys to just be on the lookout for different upcoming stuff. So let's hop to it. The Democrats have very strange ideas of just everything going on about this case. And there's a meme I want to show you guys that Matt's Idea Shop shared. And this really encompasses people's feelings about all this stuff. So you guys recall The Matrix, though it came out a long time ago now, but Democrats gobbling up that conviction. I know this steak isn't real, and then just, eating it all up. And the reason why it's a good meme is because it's really true. But if you're not unfamiliar with The Matrix for some reason, there's the real world. People basically live in a computer simulation that there's these sentient machines that the people fight, but they get their energy basically from human beings, so they keep them in these pods, and everyone in these pods are within the matrix. And so we could be living in the matrix, for example, not know that we're living in the matrix, and then someone comes in and is like, oh, this is not the real world, and they help you break out, and then you go to the real world and it's crap basically. So this is a person who was supposed to be one of the freedom fighters or whatever, but he was just over it and wanted to go back to being in the matrix and being able to eat real will eat fake steaks and think that it's real and it's true and it tastes good. Like he wants the juicy lie because of how it makes him feel. Like intellectually, he knows it's not real, but he wants the feels. Okay. So that's what is going on here. Many people are aware of the fact that this was a political prosecution, that Trump really wasn't going to get a fair day in court. And you could say because of the jury, but really the lead up to it, which this article I'm going to read to you guys makes a big deal about not blaming the jury. We don't know what they heard, and uh the breakdown, and just the facts of the case as we're hearing it are not the same as everything that was presented to them, and they were kind of presented a crap sandwich, and it's really the fault of everyone else who allowed it to get this far. So they're like, we're not going to blame the jury, but it is a gross miscarriage of justice what happened prior to them saying guilty on all 34 counts or whatever. But there are Democrats who believe that Trump is going to jail for just lying about covering up this affair with Stormy Daniels, and because it was an interest of winning an election, that's what makes it illegal. And because he lied, or he covered it up, paid to cover this up, and it helped him win, because if people had known about it, he probably wouldn't have won. Maybe, but Hillary Clinton still would have been a terrible candidate. And people were upset about the Hollywood Access tape, but they still voted for him. I don't even think the grab him by the you know what was the worst part of that video. I think the worst part of that video was Trump talking about how he was interested in this woman who he knew she was married, and he was still like trying to get with her. But that's what I thought was worse. And I thought it was really shady how everyone just kind of ignored that. And I'm like, are all y'all adulterers? That's what I thought was the shadiest part, because the other part Trump apologized for. I was like, it was just locker room talk. Which, by the way, most people, I think, if they're honest, understood and agreed with that. When I had to do the recount, and I was out on the west side of the state of Michigan, when we were wrapping things up, I was talking to the people who were there for Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton, which they were all technically there for Hillary Clinton. Let's just be for real. But when we started talking about the Hollywood Access tape, I was the only female among us, and I was talking to two dudes, four guys, and two of them were with each other, and so they are all gay. And they all agreed that it was Hollywood. That it was locker room talk, and they say things that are worse than that. I was the only one who didn't have that kind of language in my vernacular. And just as a side note, that was the year that, Deadpool, the first one, was just like bonkers successful in the box office, and that film was filthy. So, and then so people did things to Trump that were so disgusting. Like, I don't know if you guys remember this, and I don't know how much you would have seen this unless you were like chronically online, but there were people who had these naked statues of Trump, and they would just bring them around in New York and other places just as a way to humiliate him, I guess. And one day on Twitter, there was like this big paid promotion thing of these women who were kind of naked, but they had things written on their body of comments that Trump had made to try to be like, oh, isn't it this gross? He said women are fat women are ugly, or so. I don't even know all the things. I can't remember all the things that they had written on their body, but I'm just like, I don't want to see this when I open up Twitter. Like, what is wrong with you people? Do you care that much about what he said if you're reflecting similar sort of gross things, gross conduct? And people will say, well, we should expect better from our leaders. I do, but we should just expect better from everyone, right? Because I could be like, yeah, I would love if my leaders were like me, and we'd have some pretty tip-top leaders, I would think. But other folks are like, no, I don't want someone like me. I'm like, why aren't you doing better? Everybody should be better. But anyway, if the locker room talk thing came out and it ultimately he won, I don't know that the hush money thing would have made a difference or whatever. But they're saying because he paid it off and hid it, then he actually rigged the election and he cheated, and Hillary Clinton actually should have won in 2016. That is the kind of rhetoric that I saw today when I opened up my Twitter. People were saying this crazy stuff. So there was two kind of crazy camps. There's the people who were like, no, Hillary Clinton actually won, which Hillary Clinton, they're parading her around. She's selling merch that she was right about everything, which isn't true. And they're like, she should have won. Or she did win. Trump is illegitimate because he paid off a porn star. It's so stupid. And so there's that camp, but then there's camp of people who legitimately just believe that, he's in trouble because they paid off Stormy Daniels, and it was to benefit him in the election. And that's a crazy thing too. You don't think politicians pay off people and bury things during election time or before election when elections are upcoming? You think we need to like jail everybody who doesn't list that as a campaign finance thing? Are you saying that? And that's a crazy thing. If Trump should have had this listed as a campaign finance thing, and and he falsified business records, and this was a campaign thing, and they didn't list it like that. Are you making the case that paying off porn stars is a campaign expense, and that should just be a legitimate thing? Like if people had bribes or whatever that they needed to pay off for uh, election stuff, just dirty things, or people, maybe stuff that's not even true, but people sometimes accuse you of things and it's just better to pay them off. All of those things should be on your campaign finance reports. Are you kidding me? People don't believe that. People don't believe that's crazy. But y'all think this man should be in jail for that? For real? It's just bizarre. It's bizarre. And real clown world stuff coming from the left. Like some people are just doing skits. This one creator, Ross Boss, maybe on TikTok, and he will sometimes be himself and then be like a leftist, and all of a sudden he'll have a purple wig on. And the purple wig person was like, "Oh, we finally got Trump. We finally got him." And he was like, "Explain what happened." And then they couldn't explain what happened. And I don't know how a lot of people don't even know what's going on. They just know that they finally got him. And they're happy about that. But this is a crazy sort of precedent that we're putting up there for the rant I just gave about, you really think that all this crazy stuff should be labeled as under campaign finance? I I think that's pretty crazy. I've had to do campaign finance stuff myself. Yes, I did run for office once. And that sounds bonkers, guys. That sounds absolutely bonkers. Bunchy from Red State said this, which I thought was pretty good. Let's say you never heard of Trump and had no prior exposure to the situation. Now, let's say you were told an NDA payment was made over a decade-old private issue paid from a private account. It's private matter, private account. Would you think it was legal or illegal to categorize it as a campaign expense? Pretty easy way to put it. We all know the answer. 95% of people would assume doing it as a campaign expense would be illegal. And that is precisely why these campaign finance issues are always handled with fines. Well, until a certain local DA decided to enforce federal law through a novel legal theory. So, what happens if people just decide to play war with this, man? And just go for the jugular with all this stuff time and time again. So anyway, let's jump to this article that I want to go through. I'm not going to read entirely the whole thing because some of it is goes through a little bit of a memory lane that's not, it kind of sets the scene, but it's not terribly relevant. But just to briefly explain, Eli Hoeing, sorry if I did not get that name right, but he's a former state and federal prosecutor, and he does contribute to, like, CNN and other stuff. But he started off talking about how, when he did cases, like, it was really important not to really show that you were excited or that you were, like, if you won or if you fail, to really display it, that you have to, be respectful. You don't give yourself high fives or anything like that because someone's liberty is about to be stripped from them after this whole due process has taken place. So it's just a more solemn, somber sort of situation, and you respect the process. So he says all that to say that he wants to respect what the jury did, but before it even got to the jury, there was a gross miscarriage of justice that had happened. The prosecutors got Trump, but they contorted the law is the name of the article. So, okay. So he said, but the menu, let me skip a little. Okay, here he gets into some undeniable facts about the case. So he again doesn't blame the jury, even though he's followed this case pretty closely, but the way that they heard it versus the way that we're hearing it and responding to it aren't the same. And of course, juries could be, he didn't make this case. Of course, juries, though, disclaimer, can be biased. We know, like OJ Simpson, for example, the jury was biased in his favor. And they, felt like they were doing something on the lines of racial justice. So you can have a jury. It doesn't matter what you say. You're not going to be able to dig your way out of it. So here are the following all undeniable facts about this case. The judge donated money, a tiny amount, $35, but in plain violation of a rule prohibiting New York judges from making political donations of any kind to a pro-Biden, anti-Trump political operation, including funds that the judge earmarked for resisting the Republican Party and Donald Trump's radical right-wing legacy. When folks have been just fine with the judge staying on the case if he had donated a couple $100 to reelect Donald Trump, MAGA forever, absolutely not. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Earmarking it to resisting the Republican Party, Donald Trump. So again, small amount. He still should have recused himself. So there's an issue. Very political judge, very biased, wants to defeat Trump, was not fair to him, handled this pretty crazy, and he didn't, do the honorable thing and recuse himself. District Attorney Alvin Bragg ran for office in an overwhelmingly Democratic county by touting his Trump-hating prowess. He bizarrely and falsely boasted on the campaign trail, "It is a fact that I have sued Trump over 100 times." This disclosure, both Bragg and Trump's lead counsel, Todd Blanchie, are friends and former colleagues of mine at the Southern District of New York. Most importantly, and that is true that he said he sued him a lot. He knows how to deal with them. So that was a big pitch for him, that he was capable of handling Trump. He said, well, I'll go where the facts lead me or whatever. But you're not supposed to be targeting people. You're supposed to seek justice, not a conviction, but seek justice. And these people are biased. These people are biased. Most importantly, the DA's charges against Trump push the outer boundaries of the law and due process. That's not on the jury. That's on the prosecutors who chose to bring this case, and the judge who let it play out as it did. The district attorney's press office and its flacks often proclaim the falsification of business records charges are commonplace, and indeed the office's bread and butter. That's true only if you draw definitional lines so broad as to render them meaningless. Of course, the DA charges falsification quite frequently. Virtually any fraud case involves some sort of fake documentation. But when you impose meaningful search parameters, the truth emerges. The charges against Trump are so obscure and nearly entirely unprecedented. In fact, no state prosecutor in New York or Wyoming or anywhere has ever charged federal election laws as a direct or predicate state crime against anyone for anything. None. Ever. Even putting aside the specifics of election law, the Manhattan DA itself almost never brings any case in which falsification of business records is the only charge. Standing alone, falsification charges would have been mere misdemeanors under New York law, which posed two problems for the DA. First, nobody cares about a misdemeanor, and it would be laughable to bring the first ever charge against a former president for a trifling offense that falls within the same technical criminal classification as shoplifting a Snapple and a bag of Cheetos from a bodega. Second, the statute of limitations on a misdemeanor, 2 years, likely has long expired on Trump's conduct, which dates to 2016 to 2017. So, to inflate the charges up to the lowest level felony, Class E, on a scale of Class A through E, and to electroshock them back to life within the longer felony statute of limitations, the DA alleged that the falsification of business records was committed with intent to commit another crime. Here, according to prosecutors, the another crime is a New York state election law violation, which is in turn incorporates three separate unlawful means: federal campaign crimes, tax crimes, and falsification of still more documents. Inexcusably, the DA refused to specify that those unlawful means actually were, and the judge declined to force them to pony up until right before closing arguments. So people don't even know what the crime was. Until like closing argument. So much for the constitutional obligation to provide notice to the defendant of the accusations against him in the advance of a trial. This, folks, is what indictments are for. So they did say, give the instructions to the jury that not all of them, so all of them had to agree, but not on like which thing. Like if four of them said, oh, it was, for tax stuff, and someone else said it was for another crime, and someone else said it was another crime. As long as if it was 444, it was fine if it was broken up like that. But as long as all of them agreed on something. So all very strange stuff, multiple choice answers there for the jury. In these key respects, the charges against Trump aren't just unusual. They're bespoke, seemingly crafted individually for the former president and nobody else. The Manhattan DA's employees reportedly have called this the zombie case because of various legal infirmities, including its bizarre charging mechanism. But it's better characterized as a Frankenstein case cobbled together with ill-fitting parts into an ugly, awkward, but more or less functioning contraption that just might ultimately turn on its creator. Trump will appeal, as is his right, and he's certain to contest the inventive charges constructed by the DA. I won't go so far to say an appeals court is likely to overturn a conviction. New York law is broad and hazy enough to potentially allow such mechanisms, but he's going to have a decent shot at a reversal. No man is above the law. It's become cliche, but it's an important point, and it's worth pausing to reflect on the importance of this core principle. But it's also meaningless peplum if we unquestionably tolerate or worse celebrate deviations from ordinary process and principle to get there. The jury's word is indeed sacrosanct, as I learned long ago, but it can't fix everything that preceded it. Here, the prosecutors got their man, for now at least, but they also contorted the law in an unprecedented manner in their quest to snare their prey. So I thought that was a pretty good article. A lot of people are sharing it around, especially that section where it says, like, this is pretty unprecedented. No one's like brought these kind of charges, like this being the main sort of thing, So people might use falsifying business records for, involving stuff with like embezzlement or something along those lines. But this is wild. This is wild. And it's crazy to me that people, again, think that this is worthy of Trump going to jail. But is this worse than Biden, them bombing the aid worker in Afghanistan after their horrible exit? And aid worker and some kids, and nobody getting any sort of punishment for it. That's pretty messed up. But that you say, oh, these things happen. I guess you could say they did, like, say the strike was true and lie about some stuff, but no repercussions. But Trump, I mean, not Trump, Biden didn't pull that trigger. So you could say, oh, but I brought this up many times and I'll continue to bring it up. But Joe Biden, because there's the people on the left are upset. Well, they're very happy, actually. They're very happy, but they're saying that Trump, basically rigged the election. Hillary Clinton should have won because he hid this information that could have influenced the election. It always goes back to 2016. It always goes back to 2016. They never forgave him for winning. They never forgave him for embarrassing them and taking out their queen. They never forgave him for it. Even though Trump was the nominee that they wanted. Of course, they didn't want him to win, but he was the nominee they wanted. Hillary Clinton wanted him to be the nominee. The media gave him all this attention so he'd be the nominee, but he was supposed to be a joke. He was never supposed to win. So once he won, they couldn't take it. They just flipped their switch and went rabid mad and all this stuff. But Joe Biden, he got in front of the stage, debate stage, talked to the American people, and lied about his son's laptop. And he said, he pointed to that letter that 51 former intelligence officials signed, which was allegedly cobbled together by Blinken, who's now in the Biden administration, who was in the Obama administration. But he was a senior advisor on his campaign. Allegedly, he got the letter together that said the thing that Biden needed it to say, that all this looks like Russian propaganda. So Biden could say, when Trump was like, hey, his son's laptop has all this stuff on it, Biden could point to it and say, that's all, it's Russian propaganda. All these intelligence officials came together and said that. When he knew that was his son's laptop, he just needed the lie to get him over to the finish line. So if you really think that Trump should be in jail because a private account paid for a private matter, but you think it should be a campaign expense for some reason, and he didn't disclose that because he wanted to win an election. Of course he did. But you don't think the now president, but man who wanted to be president, blaming a nuclear foreign power on his blaming the laptop on them, that he knew was real. He had to have known it was real. And basically saying that Russia interfered with our election. Which is worse? Which is worse? You can say, well, that's not a crime. The thing that Trump did, Trump didn't commit a crime. Are you crazy? It's crazy. This whole thing is crazy. This whole thing is crazy. It's not that Trump really committed the crime. The crime isn't what matters. It's a principle. They want him to be charged and go to jail for the principle, right? Of daring to win. But they're hiding. Oh my, he did this and it helped him win. How many politicians lie? Biden lied about something very serious. Very serious. Trump doing something along those lines, it's skeezy. I didn't like it. I didn't like, and you can say he didn't really sleep with her. I don't know if anyone really believes that, but whether he didn't mess with Stormy Daniels or whatever, but he has some unscrupulous things in his past that I'm not fond of. One time, actually, when the story came out about these payments, I was on a local TV show, Let It Rip, and I did not know we were going to talk about that segment. And I'm like, I can't, I was there to talk about, I don't even remember all the other topics we were talking about, but I was, representing Republican there. And then there was someone else who I knew who was also, representing the Republican position. But once they're like, okay, we're going to talk about the Stormy Daniels stuff, I'm like, I didn't know he was going to talk about that. Because I couldn't just be like, oh, no, you did nothing wrong. I wasn't going to do that. You guys know me. I can't just shill for somebody. So as soon as So the other guy, Republican guy, was kind of like, man, you just people lie. Of course they lie to their, why would you be honest? You did that, your wife, etc. Blah blah blah, just kind of covering it up or whatever, or making excuses, I would say. And then the camera went to my face, and I'm just kind of like, like straight face, like making a kind of face. And I was not saying anything to defend, kind of the stuff that was going on there. So I obviously don't like his unscrupulous situations that he gets in. But that is not as serious, like I said, as blaming the laptop, because that infers that they're doing this propaganda to in the benefit to getting Trump back in office. So that's Russian interference with our elections. And what's crazy about that, and crazy about people like, oh, Trump lied and Hillary should be the president. Hillary Clinton was behind the Russia collusion. She was behind it, allegedly signed off on the plan for Russia collusion to distract people, to put the blame and whatever heat on Trump so people could be distracted from her email situation. That was her plan. And not only was it her plan, Obama and Biden knew about it. They were briefed. According to the former CIA director, Brennan, in his notes, he briefed them and the attorney general about this plot. And then Trump won. They didn't say knock it off, that's silly, or debunk it or whatever. It all kept going. Trump won. Hillary Clinton did concede, but then she went out there talking about, like, you can do everything right and still have it stolen from you. And she continued this narrative again and again. And there was all this Russia collusion stuff. All these 17 intelligence agencies signed off on it. Well, not true. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And it tarred and feathered Trump's legitimacy, his legacy, his presidency. Trump, you could say Trump did great things with the economy. Trump did this, but it was weighed down so much nonstop. Trump Russia collusion. You had Adam Schiff and Brennan, other people going on talking about how they're going to get him. Oh, it's going to come out. Brennan's pretending a couple days before the Mueller thing drops, like, oh, people could be arrested. And of course, Trump was absolved of that stuff. And Comey knew it was trash too, by the way. They all knew it was trash. But Hillary Clinton, like, I was right about everything. You can't hate Trump for all of this. You can't hate Trump for all of this. For all of the crazy stuff that he's doing, and not be disgusted at Biden and Hillary and all of these folks, because Trump is one guy with a lot of very passionate fans. True. He has a lot of influence and he can do some damage. But the threat of Biden and the progressive left and the hold they have over so many institutions is insane. And to go the distance with all this stuff, to go the distance for Biden to have a press conference, not him himself, but his campaign right outside the courthouse the other day with Robert De Niro, that was so inappropriate, so tacky. And it just keeps happening, just keeps coming, man. So it's pretty nuts, guys. This is going to be so annoying to talk about with people when people campaign, or I don't know. The felon, Trump's a felon. No idea what's going on with the case. No idea. Like, he's obviously being treated differently than everyone else. And that's the danger. If you could say no one's above the law, that's fine. but everyone's not being treated the same. I'm concerned about how at what lengths these people are willing to go to destroy him. And people have the attitude of, well, if they could do it to him, they do it to me. And not everybody's has done or will do the things that Trump did to get themselves in those kind of situations. Like Trump said, Mother Teresa couldn't beat these charges. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't have your same kind of incidents involving with the details of the case, you know. But if they're out to get you and they stretch and Frankenstein the law in so many different ways, especially how they did the falsifying the business stuff, like so many things at this point could they claim was a campaign finance expense that you didn't put out there. They could just ding so many politicians if they really want to follow this precedent here, man. If they're willing to do that to Trump, and they did get someone else, you know, in a very biased place. It doesn't get more biased than you being a Republican and you're in New York, in Manhattan. You know, it doesn't really get more biased than that. So maybe if someone else, even if they were very kind of saintly, would be in trouble, because we're not seeing the law applied equally. In Biden's America, if you go out looting and rioting for racial justice, you get a tweet from Kamala Harris and people donate so they can bail you out of jail. When you are a pro-life advocate, your house gets raided. You get arrested and have to go through trials and whatnot. It's just not the same. Joe Biden has done so much shady stuff with his son. You know, there's no one's above the law. They try to do that sweetheart deal with Hunter, get his gun charges off, the his tax evasion stuff, you know, lessened. They don't care about all this stuff. They don't care about justice. No way. They care about getting Trump. And I want to remind you people, I want to remind you that Donald Trump, when he was first impeached, the real crime, the real reason why he was impeached was not about the phone call. You know, the phone call encompassed different elements, but the thing, if you read the articles and you remember the commentary, the real reason why they're upset, it wasn't because he held aid from Ukraine, because Biden just did that, you know, basically with Israel when he didn't want them to go into Rafah, and he's like, well, we're going to withhold these certain ammunitions, even though he signed the darn bill. Republicans compromised on a bunch of different things to get a bunch of things passed at once. And then Biden is just going to be like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. You know, we're not going to do that. So Biden must not care too much about withholding funds, right? And apparently the Democrats don't either. So it's not really about that. What was really the thing that got people was they were saying that Donald Trump was trying to use his position of power to come after his political opponent and win re-election. That was the true crime of the impeachment. That was the thing that was so detestable in their eyes, and really why they needed to go after Trump and make sure that he wasn't president anymore. And Trump has all these indictments against him. One person who worked on the case had a high-ranking position in the DOJ, who leaves their cushy job at the DOJ to go work in New York. It just seems a little sus to work. And then as a part of this case, he was standing behind Alvin Bragg in the press conferences. And people are like, this just seems really shady. Seems really shady. But even if there was, you can never find, even if you can never find some kind of direct Joe Biden said this, Joe Biden said that, or Garland said this, and Garland was directed by Biden. Even if you never find that thread, because people try to look for different threads with Obama and they didn't quite always get there. But even so, it's still not a good look. I can't believe they did that press conference the other day. And Biden is, like, oh, Trump's a felon now, but we still have to win in, it's not over. You got to win in November. If they put Trump in jail and Trump does lose, even if Trump loses at this point in November, which is all, everyone in the primary was aware that these cases were coming and they were going to have whatever impact they were going to have. So he was nominated. Republicans decided to go along with all this anyway. So whatever repercussions happen. But people will never say it was a fair election. People will never say it. They'll never believe it. So was it worth pulling this trigger? Things were not awful under Trump. They just can't stand that he won. They can't stand not having power, even if it would only be for 4 years. And let's be frank, they're going to sue the crap out of him with everything that they can at the federal level. If he tries to deport a bunch of people, or what, they'll sue him and sue him and sue him and try to block him in court. They'll fight tooth and nail with every appointment that he makes. They won't want to compromise on bills, and maybe some they will. But it's going to be resistance, and you'll have the media who fight nonstop, fact checking every single thing. Rachel Maddow, everybody's ratings are going to go up. And they might invent something. I don't know, a new kind of hoax. They might try to impeach him. Some people think they're going to try to kill him. I don't know about that. I think that's a little too messy. Like, they could just work to undermine him and use him to fund campaign, fundraise, and ratings, all that stuff. I think he's kind of too valuable to. Why make him that much of a martyr? That seems really crazy to me. But it would only be for 4 years. Only 4 years. He's a lame duck, man. Is this sort of damage worth it? And I understand Biden doesn't want to give up power. I understand all the people pulling Biden strings or don't want to give up power. But there's no love and respect for where we are as a nation or where we're supposed to be, in any kind of caution for where this is all headed. If you're going to come for the former president and throw him in jail, convict him of being a felon, you got to have them dead to rights. And it better be for something, I think, more meaningful than misclassifying the payment for your porn star. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, folks. So, I don't know if he's going to be arrested or not. We'll have to see. You guys know I don't like to predict. I don't care for being wrong. So, but I'd be surprised if they didn't. I'd be really surprised if they didn't. But it seems like it creates too big of a mess. Sentencing will be on the 11th of July, I believe. And so we got a whole month of speculating. And that is right before the convention. So I wonder if he could even be at convention if he was like on house or you put him on house arrest or whatever, if he was jailed, or he could be jailed. So I don't know how if they immediately take him in or what. This is just such a bizarre, crazy circumstance for so little, for something so thin. But the Trump impeachment was something that was so little and so thin too. I can understand like the impeachment over January 6th, which is silly because he's about to be out of office. But anyway, but people's emotions were very high. I feel that whatever way you slice it, it happened way too fast anyway because there was information that they used that just wasn't true at the time, with events that occurred during January 6th, that it just wasn't an appropriate kind of situation. But the impeachment over Trump for obstruction of Congress and I can't remember the other way they put the other thing, but the phone call and going after Joe Biden. That was the crime. Joe Biden. So, we live in crazy times, guys. We live in crazy times. One thing I do want to say, I was having a conversation with someone, and if you've been following me for a while, I've been very frustrated with a lot of decisions that Trump has been making throughout the year or so, especially some positions that he's taken on pro-life issues. And it's like I've really been ranting about that and other things. Um, that like different legal matters and involving some people who are based who like the elector situation. I feel like Trump should have been doing more and shouldn't have put people in those kind of situations. I know some of the people in Michigan who were indicted on all that stuff. So there's lots of things going on, but I try to be fair still and everything, but I've been frustrated. So I was talking to someone who has also been frustrated with Trump over particularly his pro-life stance and stuff. And they said, they'd be doing all kind of, stuff right now in the past if he hadn't made other decisions, and he just doesn't kind of have that same fire for him or whatever. But we both agree like this is awful. Like there's people who don't like him who are still saying this is way too far, way too far. So I was talking to someone else about it, my sister about it, and so I said, I wish, because you have all these people coming to his aid, coming to his side, and they should. And you have all this money. The money pouring in for him is insane. $35 million yesterday, from my understanding. I'm surprised, a little surprised it wasn't more, but that's a crazy number. That's a crazy number. So many people rushed to give to Donald Trump yesterday after the verdict. So much so that the site crashed for the donations. And so many people were like, I'm giving, I'm willing to give, I'm ready to give, and I talked to my sister about it. And disclosure, she works for the RNC, which is pretty much for the Trump campaign now. So um I was just asking about different stuff, and she's just like, people are supporting, people are supporting, people are supporting. So which you could see that. Like I made a post about it. Someone was like, I just donated. People are out there doing it. So they raised a lot of money. It don't there's donors dropping huge amounts of money, but he's gotten a lot of small donation dollars from people who can't afford stuff, but they're still like, this is too important, we have to support him. And so I was saying, I wish in a lot of respect that I wish that he was a better man as far as just moral things. Again, back to like the porn star situation. Like I wish those sorts of things didn't happen. That those things weren't tied to him and so on. But I said our justice system is supposed to work for everyone. It's not supposed to just work for the moral and the upright. It's supposed to work for everyone, whether you are of influence or you are a beggar. It's supposed to work for everyone. So, regardless of however you might feel about Trump, whether you like him or you don't like him, what's going on is wrong. what's going on is wrong. And it's very concerning how much the Democrats don't care about the repercussions. They're elated that they get to call Trump a felon. Is it worth it though? If victory at any cost, maybe. But he's not the threat to democracy that they pretend that he is. They are. They absolutely are. If you say Trump, no, Trump's a threat to democracy, who's the one who issued the unconstitutional OSHA mandate to force businesses to coerce their employees to take a vaccine that would not stop the spread of COVID? Who did that? Who violated your liberties like that? Was it Donald Trump? I don't think so. It was Joe Biden. Who's the one who won't defend the border? Who's the one who won't defend the border? Who's the one who's letting cartels basically run our border? Who's the one letting in thousands of Chinese nationals? Tens of thousands, just like San Francisco area since October. It's Joe Biden. People are coming from all over, man. Not just Mexico. Even the people coming over who paid the cartel 10 grand are concerned about the people coming over with them. Saying there's some sketchy people. Y'all need to know who's coming in your country. It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. Who's the one arresting pro-lifers? Joe Biden. Who's the one who coordinated with the National School Board Association to conspire a letter to send to the DOJ requesting that they use methods like the Patriot Act to be used on parents concerned about pornographic material in their children's schools? It's a Biden administration. Who's the one who's rewriting Title IX so your daughters have to be in locker rooms with boys? And if they don't like it, then the school can lose their funding. It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. So I could go on. I could go on. But what is the threat of Trump? Getting $2 gas? There's a much bigger threat. People will never accept this election if he loses. And they don't care. They don't care. But there's who will see this as a legitimate election after this, especially if he's in jail. So we live in dangerous times. But don't let people tell you that Trump is a threat to democracy. Just start listing off some of that stuff. There's more examples. Just start listing off some of that stuff, man. It's absolutely Joe Biden and the progressive left. Delegitimizing the Supreme Court. Every time something happens he doesn't like, oh, this is a rogue court. But he goes out there bragging like, I did. The Supreme Court told me to do something and I didn't do it. As a matter of fact, let me just Biden is trashing Trump for questioning the judicial system, which Joe Biden doesn't write these things, but it's in his account. So we're going to go along with it. Donald Trump is threatening our democracy. First, he questioned our election system. Then he questioned our judicial system. Biden. Supreme Court blocked me, but they didn't stop me. That's Joe Biden, man. They're from the same week. Literally from the same week. So that's the news, the crazy news. Um, so Kit Kat said it's like they want civil war. I don't I don't know how many people would be willing to go do civil war. I know people are very passionate and talking a big game, but after COVID, because people were saying 'cause some of that stuff kind of actually after January 6th too, but um, in my mind, I just kept thinking, so y'all rolled over for COVID. So many people rolled over. So a lot of people did fight for their liberties and stuff, but the country was so quick to jump on board with that and roll over with that. I just can't imagine everyone being like, Civil War. Could there be some riots? Maybe. Maybe. But you'll notice there wasn't a big riot yesterday. Nothing burned down from what I'm aware. And maybe nothing will even happen, you know, if Trump does lose and people see it as rigged or whatever. But people will never consider Joe Biden to have won legitimately. And I guess people don't legitimately believe he won now. A lot of people don't right now. But they did their darndest to undermine Trump when he was the incoming president. You know, they spied on his campaign. You had the Peter Strzok, Lisa Page insurance policy situation. The FBI was so concerned about, or people at the FBI was so concerned about how much they did Trump wrong that they were talking about liability insurance. And but they knew the Russia collusion stuff was garbage. They were briefed on it. They Joe Biden suggested that the Logan Act be used against Michael Flynn, even though Comey said that his communications with Russian diplomats were legitimate. But after Trump was president, they still allowed the Russia collusion thing to go and to undermine his presidency. And who got reinstalled in the White House? Obama's vice president. So we could talk about the peaceful transfer of power, but these people on the left don't transfer power. They don't. They don't. They play a different game than the Republicans, and they need to lose. They need to lose. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I'm sure we'll have lots more to say on Monday. So we'll have to leave it at that. Yes, Kimba said Obama allowed news to be propaganda. He absolutely. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream and run my site and all that stuff, so you guys can support. I really do appreciate it. You guys can also look at different merch that we have at the store. I will have some more stuff out this week. I plan to, but I will I have more things than these things I have just saved, by the way, that I keep showing you guys every day. I did whip out on my TikTok the other day some of my Trump mug face stuff. I'm gonna pull it up really quick, go to my website and show you guys. Because I think out of like the mugshot stuff, there's some mugshot stuff that was fine and cool, but I think mine were among some of the best. So since now he is actually a felon, maybe now is the time to get you some Trump mugshot stuff. Yeah, so there's the hoodie. So it's got that Trump 2024 there and MAGA for life on the back. But it has this 2024 chain, and I did make the chain. So I've got that same image on t-shirt and the same image on a mug. And let me go back to the merchandise page. And the mug is pretty neat. There we go. So there's the mug with the 2024. And then there's the t-shirt, MAGA for life. So yeah, that's some of the stuff with this. So it's available if you're interested. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I will see you on Monday. Be safe and God bless.